All right, looks like. All right, so my name is Gregory Bennett. I've been investing for a long time, say 30 years. And so I'm well versed in all aspects of investing. So if you guys have questions about anything as it relates to real estate investing, just ask, even if it's off topic. And so I wanted to talk today about wholesaling. And wholesaling is the best way to get started investing. It takes little to no money whatsoever, you're not using your own credit. So if you have bad credit, you're fine. Wholesaling can make money. We make $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 wholesaling. But it's just a great way to get started wholesaling. I asked Danielle and Dana to assist me because not only have they been through my coaching program, they've wholesaled properties. We've all wholesaled properties together with each other. And so they can just kind of, enlighten us on what their experiences are. So Danielle, why don't you introduce yourself?
I'm Danielle Sampson Parker. I'm an Asian investor. And what's your other question?
Just give them a little idea on what your experiences are.
So for my experience in wholesale, let me go back a little bit because I got into Greg's coaching program like in 2018. It wasn't for me at the time. It just nothing was wrong with the program. It just wasn't my time. And so for me, I would then come to the programs and like, okay, I would write notes and I knew I wanted to do it, but this wasn't my time, if that makes sense. So I think right before the pandemic, I kind of got full force into it. And once you get your first wholesale deal, it's kind of like you feel like you're really stealing money because it's so easy to do. So it's kind of more or less finding the properties. And so what that looks like is driving for dollars. Then you may have when people know what you do. So you see my shirt, I'm Brandon. This is what I do. So people know what I do. And so this way, I don't really have to do a whole lot because they come to me because they know what I do. So in that aspect, it's easier. And so when it's easier, when the deals come to you, it is kind of like stealing money. You agree, Dave?
I agree.
Yeah.
It's not stealing money.
It's not stealing money.
It's
It really
legal.
isn't. It's very legal.
I'll talk about that
Yeah,
today.
but it's
legal, okay?
It's crazy because you're just like, oh my God. Like Greg always say, when you get your first check, you like, oh my God. So.
And so I paid you, what was it?
$40,000.
So I paid her a property on Capitol Hill. I paid her $40,000 for the contract. And so one thing I want you guys to know, so when we're wholesaling, we are not selling real estate. We're not selling property. We're selling a contract. We're assigning a contract. And so that's what wholesaling is. We're the buyer on the contract, and then we're assigning the contract to another investor, what we call a cash buyer. And so you're not selling property, you're selling or assigning the contract. Dana.
Hello, my name is Dana Lewis. I've been with this Bennett Platinum Coaching Group for about 2 years now. And I've tried to operate in all phases, aspects of real estate investing, but I will talk more about wholesaling since that's what this is. And wholesaling, I think, is my favorite because I won't use the term stealing, but it's very, very. Once you
let's okay. So we on YouTube, we on Facebook, we on Instagram.
I won't use that term.
Can I get two other panelists up here?
I won't use that term, but it is very good, relaxing money. Let me put it that way, because the other aspects have a bit of stress and risk involved. But wholesaling is absolutely no risk whatsoever. The way Greg has vetted his contracts and his forms that you will use makes it trouble-free. You just have to do the work. We all have to do the work to find a property, to find a deal. But once you find that deal, because whatever you do, you got to find a deal. That's one, is to find a deal. But once you find that deal, to me, that is the most relaxing part of investing in wholesale. Because it's like, I did the work, found the property. Now I pass it off to Greg, and I just sit back and I watch Greg try to get to the finish line, where he got defensive players coming against him, and I'm just watching. And when he gets to the finish line, I walk to the goal line. I said, okay, Greg, let me get mine. And he's done all the work, you know, after I've done the work to find it. So yeah, wholesaling might be my favorite.
And so like Dana said, so we wholesale, it's less risk. And so primarily we talk about wholesaling, fix and flip, and buy and hold. And of the cash strategies, buying for cash, underneath buying for cash, we have wholesaling and fix and flip. When we're fixing and flipping, the cash that you make is a lot higher, but the risk is 100 times more. It's highly risky. As a wholesaler, it's low risk, great reward. In our area, there's no reason why when you wholesale a deal that you shouldn't make probably around 20,000 on average. Danielle's made 40,000 for me, and I'm sure higher. Dana, I'm just going to tell all of Dana's business. He's had 2 deals since he joined our program where he made over $100,000 on a wholesale deal. Two deals. And that just simply, we can have him talk about it, but just simply comes from knowing what he's doing, not being afraid, taking action, taking mentorship. And so all of those things led him to make on 2 separate deals over $100,000. And so like, if these guys can do it, you guys can do it too. And so I want you to start thinking about that. And so here's what wholesaling is. Wholesaling is finding a property, finding a deal. And so what we consider a deal is, and I'll go over it in the handout, a deal is a property that you can buy below market. 65% of the after repair value minus repair costs. So if a property after repair value is 300,000, we take 65% of that, 195, minus the repair cost. Let's say it's 60,000. We get to 135. If we can get a property for 135, we're going to put them on the contract as the buyer. So we're under contract as the buyer. We're going to negotiate with the seller. We're under contract as the buyer for 135. We're the buyer. The motivated seller is the seller. Now we find a cash buyer. I'm a cash buyer. These guys are actually cash buyers. And there's some other cash buyers in the audience. Cash buyers will buy the property using a similar formula at 70% of the after repair value minus repair costs. And so 70% of, let's just say it's 300,000, it's 210, minus the 60,000 is 150. Me as a cash buyer in that scenario, I'm happy buying this property at 150. Danielle's got the property under contract for 135. She calls me up and says, Greg, she's totally transparent, okay? Totally transparent. She's not trying to hide anything. Got this property. She's either going to tell me, I've got this property, I'm going to sell it to you for 150, or she's going to tell me, I've got this property, I'll give it to you for 150. I'm under contract for 135, which means she's going to make $15,000. You guys with me? Mm-hmm. We're not hiding anything when we're wholesale. We're being totally transparent. And she's going to tell me, I want to assign the contract to. Now, she can assign the contract because in the contract, and if you guys want to go to my Instagram page, Greg Bennett Invest, it should be on here. And so on the handout, you see Instagram, Greg Bennett Invest. If you guys want to go there, you can get the contract. And so on the contract in 2 separate places, it allows her to assign the contract. And so she's going to call me and she's going to say, I've got this property at 150. Are you interested? She'll give me the details. I may say, I want to go see the property. I'll go see it. So yes, I want you to assign the contract to me. And then she's going to fill out an assignment agreement. So in wholesaling, you guys, there's 2 contracts. There's a purchase and sales agreement. Now, in a purchase and sales agreement, you're the buyer. You guys with me? On the assignment agreement, you're the assignor. And as a cash buyer, I'm the assignee. She's going to assign the contract to me for 135. And then I'm going to give her a $15,000 assignment fee, wholesale fee. whatever you want to call it. So she's assigning the contract using two contracts, purchase and sales agreement and assignment agreement. Both of them are in my profile on my Instagram page. That's wholesaling, you guys.
I have a question. When she obtained the property, did she give the person a time frame that it could be sold?
So on her
Timeframe?
so on her contract, did I do that?
No, I didn't.
So on her contract, she's gonna put a settlement date. On the assignment agreement between her and I, there's gonna be a settlement date that's gonna coincide with the settlement date on the purchase and sales agreement. Two deposits when we're wholesaling, you guys. There's a deposit on the contract, earnest money deposit. Then on the assignment agreement, there's a deposit for that $15,000. Danielle's gonna want me to put up $5,000 of the 15. Title company's gonna hold it. I don't want Danielle holding it because Danielle likes to go on cruises. She likes to shop.
Pretty shoes.
Pretty shoes. She just came back from Cuba, Dominican, and where else? He said, don't worry about it. And so I want the title company to hold both deposits. Now, who's going to put up both deposits? Cash buyers.
Cash buyer.
Done correctly, cash buyers putting up both deposits. Okay? And so that's what wholesaling is. Now, part of the
So
key, go ahead.
what happens when the cash buyer falls through? What happens to that deposit?
And so on the assignment agreement, if you guys are looking at it, again, it's on my Instagram page. And so on that assignment agreement, it says, I forget which paragraph, that if the contract falls through, the $5,000, if it's not the seller's fault, that $5,000 goes to the wholesaler. And so that's happened to me. I had a property in Northeast where I wholesale the property to an investor. He sent his crew to look at the property, went under contract. 2 days before settlement, he actually went to the property. No, it was a day before settlement. He went to the property and said, I don't want it. Now, he knew the rules of the game was no fight. He put up a $15,000 deposit. He said, I'm just going to let you guys have the deposit. And so you forfeit the deposit. The cash buyer forfeits the deposit if they don't move forward. They can't get financing, whatever. Now, if there's title issues, that's no fault of theirs. That's the seller's issue. They get the deposit back. Right? Any other questions so far? All right, so let's see. Some advantages of wholesaling. Now, why do you guys like wholesale? I know Dana's kind of said that of all the things that he does, it's kind of the best.
Most relaxing for me,
Less stressful.
less stressful.
So here's why you wholesale. Write this down, you guys. Here's why you wholesale. You wholesale, and so you're making money. And so you're wholesaling so you can take that money to then buy and hold real estate. That's where you become wealthy. Again, there's two strategies as a real estate investor. There's the buying for cash strategy, that's flipping, and wholesaling, which is active income. Once you flip that property or once you wholesale that property, it's just one payday. You want to get to the passive side. So the other strategy is buying for cash flow, appreciation, and equity. You want to take the money from wholesaling, that cash, and then find a property, residential property, multifamily property, commercial, whatever that is, Airbnb, whatever that is, and take the money from there to buy and hold for long-term wealth, generational wealth, leaving a legacy, money for retirement. You want that cash flow. And so in most cases, you've got to buy these properties here for 20% down, 25% down. That's you're using some type of creative financing strategies. Question is, where are you going to get the money? You get the money from wholesaling, and that's why you wholesale. Wholesale is a good foot in the door for investing, but you're not wholesaling to make $20,000 and just put it in your pocket and go spend it. We're not doing that, okay? We're wholesaling to build wealth. And so that's the first step. We're going to wholesale, and then we're going to take that money. And Danielle,
So for me, so I started wholesaling. Like most people in the room, you don't have a $30,000-$40,000 to put to start generational wealth to buy a house. So for me, wholesaling is a way for me to create generational wealth, for me to buy my properties, buy Airbnbs and things like that. So for me, my wholesaling, every time I get a wholesale deal, I never spend my money. So I still work full time for a living. So all my wholesale money is I bank it and I'm buying property because my goal is for all my properties to work for me. So it's not that I don't go on trips every time I get a wholesale deal.
you go on a lot of trips.
I work every day. I work. So, but for my wholesale money, it's banked, and I'm buying property. I'm doing things with it. So it's just a means to end for you to get to your goal where you need to be. That's for me.
And so you bought, tell them about the property you bought in Baltimore last year.
So I bought an Airbnb property. It was an auction property. And so it's in a really, really good neighborhood. It's in Mount Vernon, Baltimore. And so originally, I wasn't really quite sure what I wanted to do with the property, but it made sense. And so right now, it's an Airbnb, but right now I have traveling nurses in it. So it just kind of happened that way. And I now have more traveling nurses than Airbnb. But it's a property that I would keep forever because of the fact, the location, the property value. I think when I bought the property, I totally renovated the property, and I think it's like maybe $140,000 in equity after I renovated the property. So it made sense. So all this is just from wholesale money. It's nothing that I did special, but it's a means to the end. So when I retire, so I can have all these properties working for me. So that's what wholesaling does for me.
So Dana, talk about last year. You did some wholesale deals and then you bought and held some properties.
Yeah, so basically that's been the theme, is to wholesale. And actually for me, for every wholesale that I've done, I've followed it up with a buy and hold. So I've wholesale, buy and hold, wholesale, and it's just been that on 3 occasions. So the goal is to buy and hold because we want the reoccurring money. When you buy and hold, that gift is going to keep on giving. When you wholesale, that money is there and then it's there and that's it. But that investment of a buy and hold is what's going to keep paying us. So, and that's what it's been for me: wholesale, buy and hold, wholesale, buy and hold.
And then we wholesale. We look for properties in certain areas. Danielle and I bought properties last year from our wholesale deals in Baltimore. Dana's primarily DC. You bought a property at an auction in DC, and in PG
Capitol
County.
Heights, yes.
And so you've got to pick an area. And so we like to say that older neighborhoods should be your target. Neighborhood that's at least, I'll say 50 years old, but maybe 30. A neighborhood that you can buy low, put under contract low, and then either sell or assign high, at a high rate. And so that property in DC, you wholesaled that one to me.
Right.
And so, and it was in Capitol Hill. Was that in Trinidad?
That's in Trinidad, yeah.
Okay. And so you was able to put that under contract, assign it to me at a high price. And so we're focused on neighborhoods. We talk about driving for dollars. That's one way. We'll talk about how to find these deals in a minute. But I will tell you guys that you're going to walk out of here with a knowledge of wholesaling. Here's where you're going to fail. The most important part of investing and wholesaling is finding deals. And if you don't find deals, it's like any other business. If you don't find the deals, if you don't find the leads, if you don't do any marketing, you're not going to make any money. And so you've got to know how to do that. We'll talk about that in a minute.
Can I make one quick statement?
Go ahead.
And also we have to consider the economy. When we wholesale and we just put that money in the bank, we're actually losing, giving money back out. You're losing money off of money just sitting in the bank because there's no interest on it. So I just believe in putting my money to work. So when I get some money, it's got, like everybody else in the house, got to get up and go to work. My money has to do the same thing. You know, everybody has to go out and work and collect the income.
Even your money?
Keep my money.
Hey, Victor, why don't you sit right here, Victor? I want Victor close to me.
How you doing, man? Long time no see. Good to see you, sir.
All right, cash buyers list. That's part of wholesaling. When you find a deal, you need to know who you're going to call, and so you need to have a cash buyers list. How do you build cash buyers list? So our cash buyers list are people that we're going to assign the contracts to. You build that up networking, places like here at the auctions. Lots of them are at the auction. Getting referrals. Most of you guys, you don't have to do any of that because you got me. You can assign the contracts to me. That was a joke, by the way.
It is true.
It is true, though. But you do have to build a cash buyers list. If you guys are finding land, and I get a lot of land. Somebody found some land today. You got to have a cash buyers list of people who buy land in certain areas. If you're finding multifamily, let's say you're finding multifamily in Baltimore, well, you need a list of people that will buy those contracts from you that buy multifamily in Baltimore. Residential's a little easier. As long as it's a deal, you're good. And we talked about what a deal is, right? We run the formula, and that's the deal. The formula on the handout is on paragraph 5, number 5. That's the formula. I gave a scenario earlier, but as long as you stick to the formula on number 5 and number 6, that's what we consider a deal. You stick to the formula, you're going to make a lot of money. Dana's been with us for a year or two and did about 5 deals? And so let's talk about marketing, you guys. How are you guys finding deals? Dana, you did phenomenal. You joined our program and just did phenomenal. How did you find those deals?
Well, I do a lot of driving for dollars because I have a plumbing and HVAC business, and while I'm out running my calls, going from customer to customer, I'm constantly recording addresses, sending them back to my partner, which he skip trace and record. So it started out that way, but then when it was pressed upon me to start branding myself, I started doing that, and that kind of took over. So it became people coming to me about bringing deals to me because now they know what I do. So I would say at this point it's more branding than anything, but I still drive for dollars a lot.
Branding and networking.
And networking.
What about you, Danielle? And you bought a property at an auction too.
Yes, yeah, at auction, because we were on a shadowing event. Greg has shadowing events. He'll invite everyone in the group. If you join the group to a shadowing event is where we go out and look at a property. And we looked at this particular property, and I decided I wanted to bid on it. Wasn't expecting to win, and I won. And so that was the first, the one in the district in Southeast. So that was my first bid, and just kept going after that.
And so what about you, Danielle? How are you finding properties?
So I brand myself. I do a lot of social media. I'm also, my background is healthcare. And so I'm in nursing homes and things like that. So I have a lot of people that bird dogs pretty much, who knows when vacant properties or people aren't going back into the home and things like that. So that's kind of a win-win for me. Also, I just have people just out in the community just watching. And I have kids, so and so they also do that. And then just kind of listen to people's conversation, not kind of being nosy, but if you kind of listen to people, then you kind of know when they're in trouble. And the worst thing is a lot of people that go to foreclosure, they don't talk about it. But if you listen to keywords, then you'll kind of pick up when they are. So those are just the kind of things that I do. I also do drive by dollars.
And so driving for dollars, is everybody familiar with that? Who's not? Who's not? And so here's what driving for dollars is. And I told you guys to target older neighborhoods. And so you want to target some older neighborhoods, and driving for dollars is just driving the neighborhoods, looking for houses that look to be vacant or abandoned. How can we tell that a house is vacant or abandoned? Somebody tell me. High grass, what else?
A lot of males.
A lot of mail coming out, maybe some signs in the yard, that gutters could be hanging off. And so when we see that, we want to write the addresses down. Now, we write the addresses down, and then there's some apps that we can use. There's an old-fashioned way we can do this, but there's apps that we can use. You can use PropStream as a CRM. Deal Machine is an app that you guys, so you put the address into Deal Machine, and then Deal Machine will tell you in real time who the homeowner is and a phone number. Now you can call and say, Mr. Seller, my name is Gregory Bennett. I'm with Bennett Team Properties. I'm interested in making a cash offer on your property. That's basically your script. And so if you do that enough, you guys, we've got an agent of ours who went driving for dollars and does driving for dollars once or twice a week, drives certain neighborhoods, drove this neighborhood, found this property that looked to be vacant or abandoned. While he was in front of the property, Steve Queen, he took out his app, driving for the Deal Machine, called the seller. Seller wasn't there, but seller said, yes, I'm interested in selling. Meet me the next day. Steve met him the next day, brought a contract with him and put him under contract, assigned the contract, and made a quick $25,000 using that technology, the app. And there's other apps that you can use, but that's what driving for dollars is. And so in terms of a marketing strategy, part of your marketing strategy can be driving for dollars. You can send postcards to a targeted list. You can give us some ideas of calling, Keith. So Keith runs our Platinum Coaching Program. In terms of calling absentee owners, talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we call, I'll get from the camera here. So guys, we make a lot of calls to absentee owners that have properties here, but they live elsewhere. We call up a lot of people in pre-foreclosures. Like there's a lot of people in trouble out there. And so we make calls, and we stress the number of calls. You can't just call 20 people and think you're doing something, right? You got 100 calls. Greg tells the story of him going home back in the day and making 200 calls a night. So we got to make the call. You got to know what to say. Some people will, some people won't. So what? Next. So that's just the kind of the top of the iceberg, so to speak. But you got to get in front of people.
And so it takes work, you guys. We're up here and we're glamorizing wholesale, and we're saying you can make 6 figures on a deal, $20,000, $40,000 on a deal. Sounds good, right? But it takes work. But it's worth it. And so if it's door knocking, we've got some people that door knock with flyers or door hangers. Some of our investors follow the auctions, Hubzu, auction.com, AlexCooper.com. They follow the auctions and they run their formula on properties and they bid on the properties. They either go to the courthouse steps or they bid online and they follow these properties and they're able to acquire properties that way. Networking is big. You've got to let everybody know that this is what you do. You're a real estate investor. Everybody in here is a real estate investor. You buy houses fast. You buy houses for cash. Everybody in here. Now, you may not have the means to actually close on a property for cash, but Danielle does. She has the means. I have the means. Dana has the means. And so you can put them under contract as the buyer and then assign that contract to the cash buyer. Is everybody with me? Negotiation. As an investor, it's all about negotiation. You've got to know how to negotiate. There's two times where you have to negotiate. You've got to be able to negotiate down to the Mayo formula and put that seller under contract as a wholesaler at 65% of the after repair value minus repair costs. And so let's say that number in the earlier scenario is 135. You did your numbers. You need to put it on the contract for 135. They're not going to want to sell for 135. They may say 150. You've got to know how to negotiate. We teach negotiation in our class. And so you've got to know how to negotiate. If you know your number is 135, I want them to speak first. So I'll say, Mr. and Ms. Seller, give me an idea of what you want to sell the property for. If they say 150, if they say whatever they say, I'm going to look down like I'm looking, whatever they say. Even if they say 135 and I'm at 135, I know that if we agree at 135, it's too easy, right? There's no pain in that negotiation. In every negotiation, there needs to be a little bit of pain. Are you guys feeling me? Caden, are you with me, Caden? Are you paying attention? Marion, make sure that he pays attention. So there needs to be a little bit of pain. If they ask you, well, you're the investor, make us an offer. If my number is 135 and I have to speak first, am I going to say 135? What am I going to say? She said 110. I might say 110. Or I might say 120, thinking if I think that their number might be 150, I'm at 135, I might say 120 because the easiest negotiation, you guys, the easiest negotiation is what? Let's just meet in the middle. If the middle is the 135, I'm there already. And so you got to know how to negotiate with the seller, with the motivated seller to get your number. The number one mistake that investors make is buying a property wrong. They buy it too high and they get in trouble. You got to buy the properties right. In this market, in this shifted market, we teach you how to buy the property right, with the right number. We put it under contract for 135. We was able to negotiate. Now we got to negotiate with the cash buyer. Because that cash buyer, even if we give it to them at 70%, they want it lower. Cash buyers always want it lower. Cash buyers are greedy. They're real greedy. And so that's a negotiation, you guys. And so you got to negotiate with Dana. You got to negotiate with Danielle. Victor buys property. So you got to negotiate with us. And so you got to know how to negotiate, what to say, and then what not to say. Most investors talk themselves out of making money. And so you want to talk yourself into making money. If you've ran your numbers and you are able to get the 135, and you know that at 70%, you should be selling the property at 150, you got to trust your numbers and never ever go below the 150. Okay, are you guys with me? If you should be selling that property for 150 or signing that contract for 150, never ever go below. Trust your numbers. If you don't have a cash buyer that's going to buy it for 150, I do. I will, or I do. I got a database of over 1,000 cash buyers with everywhere. They're everywhere. And so I have a list of them in PropStream, in PropStream.com, you guys. PropStream not only does skip tracing, but it also has a list of cash buyers in certain areas. And so PropStream is a great tool, but you've got to know how to negotiate. It's a negotiation. Talk to us about negotiation, Dana.
Well, I'm learning from my mentor, Greg Bennett, how to negotiate.
And he's learning pretty fast too.
I watched him. I watched this man. I studied this man because he's successful. And that's what I've always done. I've always found people who were doing what I wanted to do, and I studied them. And that's what I do to Greg. So I've learned some negotiation skills. I'm not as good as he wants to say that I am, but
we've had to negotiate
several times. You know, just real quick, you know, it's really scary because whenever I negotiate with Greg, it's always in in his building and just one office. And it's really, it's spooky, it's scary the way
Oh,
he
yeah.
does it. I'm playing, but no, I've learned a lot from him. You know, and it's been good. It's working for me.
What about you, Danielle?
I guess for me, like for my cash buyers, I only deal with people that I know. If I don't know you, I'm not using you as a cash buyer. So I know for my cash buyers, if we can negotiate, they know I'm gonna bring another one. So I guess it's kind of like, you know, because we keep it in the network. And then with my sellers, it all depends on the dynamics of the sellers. Because a lot of I never say, well, I want to buy for 150. They always give me a number first. And it's usually lower than what I was going to sell, get it for anyway. So that kind of works for me. But for my cash buyers, I only deal with people that I know. So it's kind of easier not to negotiate with someone who I don't know. And I gotta trust you.
As far as settlement, so once we have, wholesaling is 2 contracts, purchase and sales agreement, and then the assignment agreement. Both agreements go to the title company. Now, my preference would be for you, even as a wholesaler seller, to choose the title company. You want to invest, investor-friendly title company. We have one here that celebrates settlements. It's around here somewhere, right here. You want to choose a title company, number one, that understands investing, because most don't. Most real estate agents don't understand what we're talking about right now. So you need a title company. So that's number one. Number two, you want to control that whole thing. Make sure that both agreements the title company has. Make sure the title company has your banking information so that they can wire you your wholesale fee, $25,000, whatever it is. And some wholesalers we've experienced actually come to settlement, but you don't have to. But you do want the title company to give you a copy of the, sometimes they use a HUD-1, Ulta, the settlement statement. Get a copy of that. Once you get a copy of that, what's the first thing you look for? Look for your money, okay? And so make sure your money is on there. There's a line item for you or your LLC, preferably your LLC. Make sure that's on there. And if you do that, going through that whole cycle, which should last about 3 weeks, sometimes 2 weeks, sometimes 4 weeks, but a short period of time, especially if you have a cash buyer that's truly paying cash, it's pretty fast. And like Dana said, it takes a lot to get up to that point where you're getting paid. But of all that I do, and I do a lot, wholesaling is the most gratifying. It's gratifying for a lot of reasons. It's the money that you make, but then you're helping that seller get out of that situation. And we only deal with motivated sellers that maybe the loved one passed away, so we're dealing with a personal representative, or the house is in pre-foreclosure, or the house is in so disrepair that they can't afford it. And so we're solving their problem. We're helping a cash buyer either buy and hold that property or fix and flip that property. So we're helping the neighborhood. And so it's just a really good feeling to go through that. And so then the question is, how many of those can you do, or do you want to do? Like, what set a goal, and then you take action. Do you guys set goals?
I do.
What's your goal, Danielle?
So my goal for this year is 4 buy and holds. I want to do a multifamily and at least 5 wholesale deals within a quarter.
How about you, Dana?
So for me, for the first quarter, my goal is is 4 wholesale deals and possibly a buy and hold within the first quarter.
Okay. And so, so when they say these things, I know, because I've experienced it, number one, that it's realistic. And then number two, they've done these things. Like, this is nothing new for them. They've done all of these things. Dana came into the program and just kind of right away just started finding deals, wholesaling. Danielle too. And so it's all realistic, but it's up to you. I mean, you really, 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 really have to take action. And so this is your 60-day. I'm giving you guys 60 days to find a wholesale deal. Okay. And so on page 3, you want to find your niche, find your targeted area. What's your targeted area? Where are some of the areas that you guys want to target? Areas that look to be older neighborhoods that you can buy low and sell high. Somebody give me an area that you want to target.
Southeast Washington.
Southeast. So Southeast is big. Where in Southeast?
Capitol Hill.
So Capitol Hill, I wouldn't necessarily think, now it's an older neighborhood, but what do you guys think about Capitol Hill?
I would only do Capitol Hill if I knew it was an older house and the people might be old and they can't continue to pay for the house, or if the house is probably paid for. Those are the type of houses, but not Capitol Hill per se. It's kind of like you kind of hit and miss in Capitol Hill.
What about you, Dana? So Dana, you bought one in Southeast, but
Yes,
not Capitol
but
Hill.
not Capitol Hill. Just the price point of Capitol Hill is gonna be pretty high. So if you could be fortunate enough to find someone who's been there forever and, you know, like what Danielle was just saying, I think that's what you meant. You know, a house that just been in existence, hasn't been already tampered with, is what I call it. Then that's good, but I think there's a lot more opportunity.
That you grew up in.
I'm sorry?
What about the neighborhoods that you grew up in?
Yeah, it depends on where you grew up.
On Capitol Hill.
Oh,
So if you
where
know
you know,
somebody,
yeah,
if
you
you
know
know the
people.
people that's in Capitol Hill and they, you know, the parents or, you know, those type of people, you know, this house been here forever, the kids not gonna pay the taxes, things like that, those are perfect houses. But if just on a random, like you got all the other people that the houses are already gentrification, you're not gonna make money on those. But the ones that you already know that been there forever and they keep saying, I'm not moving, those are the ones you gotta keep on targeting every month. Send a letter, call them.
And that's a good point, is where you grew up at, because I'm focusing on the neighborhood I grew up in. I'm on my third house in right where I grew up at.
Okay.
They're within steps of each other.
Now, this app called Deal Machine, because I've been trying to get the address, the phone numbers, everybody, for everybody in that area. This will help me get it, right?
Yeah,
Deal
that's
machine,
right.
yeah.
Yeah, it'll skip trace it. It'll help you. So if you know people, and like they're saying, by all means. I mean, honestly, if you get one, and let's say Capitol Hill is selling for, keep this in mind, you guys. Let's say after repair value of what you're looking for is, say, 1.5 million, right? And I think that's probably what it is, maybe a little higher than that. So let's just say it's 2 million. Let's just say it's 2 million. Generally speaking, our wholesale fee is about 5% of the after repair value. So now if you're taking 5% of 2 million, you know, you're making $100,000 on a wholesale deal. And so that's just kind of how you look at it. Now, that might be far and few between than what Dana found one in Marshall Heights. Now, the deals are going to probably be more plentiful in Marshall Heights, Deanwood, areas like that. Now, if the after repair value where he is, let's just say half of that, then he's going to make half the money, but he's going to have more opportunity because there's more deals. There's more houses selling in Deanwood, you know, Marshall Heights, Fort DuPont, areas like that. Questions?
Mine was in DC, but I just did an open house this morning on South Dakota Avenue. So I think that's a prime area, and it's a wholesale in the house for, I think, like $469.
469? Yeah.
So, you know, I think that's really good, because once you get it in, fix the house after you sell it and all.
Yeah, ARV is about 900. So I just recently had one over there on Randolph Street. Like 22nd and Randolph, 22nd right off of South Dakota and Woodridge.
Okay.
And so I have one in Woodridge. Hopefully it'll close next week. I hope. We'll cross our fingers. But anyway, we put that one on the market recently. And even though we're in a shifted market, probably within a day or two, we had, I don't know what, 3 offers. I'm talking to Susan in the back.
We had probably 50 inquiries within a day.
Yeah, and so I put that I mistakenly kind of got paralyzed in thinking that the market had shifted. I'm under contract for 400, and I'm like, the market has shifted. I'm just going to put it under contract for put it out to cash buyers for 420. Happy to make $20,000. They bid it up all the way up to 450. And so we let it go for 450. Signed the assignment agreement at 450. $50,000 assignment fee. And so some areas, especially in DC, is high. I will tell you guys though that everywhere in the DMV, whether it's DC, PG County, DMV area, if you can find deals, there's cash buyers that will come running. You find a deal, we can wholesale it. You can wholesale it. We'll help you wholesale it. There's more cash buyers out here than deals. Okay, and so that's why. How many people did you have at your open house?
Oh, well, it's not a lot because I think the main reason why, because the parking, you can't, the house is on South Dakota, there's no parking, so you have to park in the alleyway,
Still gonna sell.
garage, so,
It's still going to sell.
oh yeah, it'll sell. Well, the guy that came by, that he said he's putting in an offer,
You only need one.
yeah.
All right, you guys. So we're going to wholesale. We know we're wholesaling to get the money to then buy and hold, right? Now, to buy and hold, you've got to make sure that you've got the money, and if your credit is not worthy, start working on your credit. While you're wholesaling, save your money, start working on your credit. If your credit is worthy now, let's take the money and then buy and hold. We're going to do some type of marketing. Question is, how are you finding your deals? How are you finding your deals? You've got to know that, because if you don't know that, you can't just sit idly by and just look at the phone and wait for it to ring. You've got to do something. You got to put some work in. Like, what's the work? What type of work are you going to put in? Caden, stand up real quick. I asked you this at the last time. What type of work are you putting in? What are you doing?
I'm cold calling, texting right now.
So he's cold calling. So he gets a list. I think, where do you get the list from? Keith?
Yeah, prop string.
Okay. And then he just calls. The best two lists, thank you, Caden. The best two lists, in my opinion, are pre-foreclosures and out-of-state absentee owners. You can get those lists from various places. PropStream, you can get the list. Melissa Data, List Source, Listability. Did I mention PropStream?
Yeah.
PropStream. Those are the two best lists, in my opinion.
You said pre-foreclosure?
Pre-foreclosures, yeah. So a pre-foreclosure
You
list,
said prop screen, how you spell that?
a PROP, and then stream.
Do you do any commercial wholesaling? Because I hear more residential.
I have in my past, but we don't do a lot, primarily residential.
Okay.
I am starting to get more opportunities with multifamily, like 5 units or more, especially like I'm working on a deal in Baltimore County right now, 7 units.
Okay.
So we do get those opportunities.
Well, I'm asking because I'm a commercial broker, so that's why I'm kind of focusing more on commercial.
If you can find a deal and the numbers work, it's a different ball game. It's a different conversation. You've got to figure out the cap rate on yours. And then once you figure that cap rate out, then you want to sell for a little below so that you can make money. And so with commercial, you got to get, all the income that's coming in, all the debts, figure out the cap rate, and then go from there.
Yes, sir.
So it's a different way of wholesaling.
Oh, okay, so this is.
It's the same,
Okay.
but we use like the Mayo formula to determine what we're going to sell the property for.
Gotcha.
With commercial, you've got to figure out the cap rate.
Right.
You got to use the income and the debts and all that kind of stuff.
To get the DS.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you, sir.
All right, cash buyers list. Who's going to be your cash buyers? You got to figure it out. Yeah, who said that? Okay, yeah, my man.
Can I say something about that? Cash buyers is really somebody you want to be able to trust, you feel like you can trust. That's really important, because they can waste your time, they can, it just can be a disaster. Your name, you can ruin your name dealing with the wrong cash buyers if you're not getting things to the finish line. I use Greg for that reason, because I feel like I can trust Greg. So when I bring it to him, I feel like it's going to the finish line. Huh? Oh, no, well, yes, I am. And that's why I use it. So I just wanted to just say you want to be able to trust is a big word.
What are the timeframes you're putting on the contracts for the purchase agreement on both sides and the assignment?
So the time frame, I will say 3 weeks, a 3-week settlement, sometimes 2 weeks. If I know, so just keep in mind, it's going to take about a week for the title company to, do the title work. Huh?
A good time.
Yes. It's going to take a week. I mean, they can do it in 2 days, but not to press them. It's going to take about a week. And then if it's a true cash buyer that has cash, I mean, they can close whenever the title is done. But a lot of our cash buyers use hard money, and it takes a hard money lender 2 or 3 weeks. A good hard money lender that has their own money, it's going to take about 2 or 3 weeks. So I like to put 2 or 3 weeks on the contract. We need a team. Go ahead.
So once I find a cash buyer, right? Besides the property, what's in it there?
What's in it for the cash buyer? So the property. I mean, a good deal. That's what's in it for them.
And so your question, because why would the cash buyer buy from you and not do the work?
Yeah.
Because they don't want to do the work. The work, it's a lot of work to get a wholesale deal. So me, if sometimes I'm not in a position to do wholesale deals, but I need to find a property. And so I don't feel like doing the work, but you might send me a good deal. And that's why I don't care if I'm paying you $50,000 for a wholesale fee, because the property is still good and I'm still making money.
As long as your numbers work. I got a text message this morning from, one of my cash buyers saying, do you have any deals? And the reason I received the text is because he's looking for deals. He doesn't have a deal. And so most of the cash buyers, you guys, aren't putting in the work to find deals. And so if you can put in that work to find deals, you're happy to make 20,000 or 15,000, whatever it is, pass it on to them and let them take the risk. They're still getting a good deal. And so if you're buying and holding or fixing and flipping, you want to buy below market and get a good deal. And so that's what's in it for them. You're handing over to them in most cases. I bought a property. Dana wholesaled a property to me in Landover. Remember that Landover deal? And I paid Dana, I don't remember how much I paid him, but what was in it for me was, once I renovated that property, rented it out, what was in it for me was I had $100,000 in equity. Bought the property, once I renovated it, worth $100,000 more than what I owed on the mortgage. Dana handed me $100,000. That's what was in it for me. You with me?
Also, like Greg said, there's more cash buyers than there are deals. So there are people who have established themselves, have construction crews. In order not to lose these people, they got to keep them busy. So now I'm finished a deal. I need another deal because I need to keep my people busy. I need to keep my train running. I don't want my train to stop. I want my train to keep moving. I got to keep these people. I got some good contractors, which is not easy to find, and I need to keep my team together. If I'm sitting for 6-8 months and nobody's doing anything, then people kind of start to walk away from it, because people have to live. People have to eat.
How do you manage the contractors, because people tend to have issues to keep them consistent? How do you keep your contractors consistent when you do that?
How do you keep them
Like,
consistent?
You say, how are you managing your contractors?
Yes.
Well, when you say managing, I'm a contractor myself,
Oh,
so it's
okay,
a little bit
okay.
easy for me, and I'm right there, and I do a lot of the work myself, so I'm right there with them throughout the whole project. But for the normal investor, it's a little different.
Yeah, for me, I have different contractors, and so I have contractors in Baltimore, and I also have a few in this area. So again, we can have good relationships, and it's a win-win. I continue to use you, and vice versa. So if they find deals, they'll give them to me. And sometimes we joint venture. So you gotta feed who you working with too.
Go ahead.
Do you all do any virtual wholesaling? Or is it just local?
So the question is, do we do virtual wholesale? I look forward to doing virtual wholesaling, but I've primarily only done local.
So for me, I did 2 properties in Georgia, in the end of November. So it was something new for me, and it worked. And I never saw the people, never talked to the people.
So it did not work?
It did.
Okay, yeah.
No, virtual wholesaling works.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
I mean, so it's just about finding the deals, and that's what you guys have to focus on. You've got to establish a team. Who's going to be your title company? Who's going to be if you're using an agent, who's going to be your agent? Accountant, who's going to be your accountant? So establish a team and go in it with a team. I would like to say you've got to have a mentor or coach. And so a lot of our coaching students are here, but to minimize your mistakes and get to your goals a lot faster, you've got to have a coach. I mean, Coach Keith right here. Stand up, Keith. We will help you guys. There's a handout in here. We'll point to it in a minute, but we will help you guys. But these guys, they joined our coaching program. A lot of my coaching students, any current or former coaching students in the house? Raise your hand. Raise them high. Just raise them high. So we've got some in here. But it just helps you get to your goals. And I'm happy because this is, for me, it's not work. So I'm happy to go to properties. I'll go to the properties with you. Almost everybody that raised their hand have been to the property. I've been all the way up to Charlene's house, all the way in the boondocks on the other side of Baltimore. And I've been by one with Caden. Marion has ran me out to some properties. These guys, of course. And so we want to help you. We want to see you guys win. And so that's what this is all about.
And real quick, I did this almost 30 years ago. I'm telling my age, but almost 30 years I did this and fell. Due to not having a coach, I fell flat on my face and lost everything.
Marketing is the key. Number 5 on page 3. Marketing is the key, you guys. You got to figure out, we can help you put together a marketing strategy. You are not going to do everything on number 5. Do one thing and be great at it and be consistent with it. Whatever you can be consistent with, do that. Learn how to evaluate your properties. Let's see. Get paid at selling. I mean, that's about it. And so I sometimes, not enough, but I sometimes get the question on whether wholesaling is legal or not. You ever think about that? And here's my response. And the only reason I'm bringing it up because I think in the state of Maryland now, they're trying to pass a bill to require wholesalers to have a real estate license. And I think that happened, on the 25th? Anybody familiar with that?
On the 7th of February.
Oh, okay.
They're having a hearing.
Look at Ashley. Okay, Ashley. All right. And so here's what I say to that. And so is it illegal for a buyer and a seller to get together and sell a house, like for sale by owner? You don't need a real estate agent for that, right? A wholesaler wholesaling the property correctly, a wholesaler is not selling real property. What are they doing? They're selling the contract or signing a contract. We disclose, if I was to take out the contract, and again, you guys, on my Instagram page, you can get the contract. We disclose in our purchase and sales agreement, number one, we disclose who we are. We're the buyer. We're the principal buyer. But then we also put in or assign. So it's already on the contract. So either we're the buyer or we're allowed to assign the contract. In paragraph, I think it's 7, paragraph 11, we put in the paragraph that we may assign the contract. So we're disclosing to the seller that we can assign the contract. On paragraph 9 is our agency. And so in paragraph 9, we say to the seller that we're not representing you as the seller, that we may or may not be a real estate agent, but if we are, we're not representing you. You can get legal help if you want, you can get representation if you want, but we're not representing you. Okay? We don't use a board-approved contract. We use, our investor contract. And so and we have consideration on here, meaning once the parties sign, we put up our earnest money deposit, right? So it's a legal binding contract, there's consideration. And so when we find the buyer, we're going to use our assignment agreement and we're assigning the contract.
So are you just looking for properties that are free and clear, basically without a mortgage, or do you also entertain the fact that they may already have a mortgage? Because you're looking at pre-foreclosures, but when you're talking about like properties that are in distress, or did maybe abandoned or something like that, should we mostly concentrate on the properties that are free and clear and abandoned? Because
No.
people die and stuff like that.
No, we're just looking for deals. Whether they have a mortgage or not, it doesn't matter. And so one of our coaching students got a pre-foreclosure list, was calling the pre-foreclosure list, was able to get a hold of the motivated seller. And so I went to the appointment, and the motivated seller had a mortgage on the property. The mortgage was such that it really wasn't a good real estate deal, but I made it a good deal using creative financing, a subject to, which meant that I didn't need to go through 2 settlements, a settlement when I buy it and then a settlement when I sell it. I brought her mortgage current, and then fixed it up and sold it and gave her profit. But I just say that to say she had a mortgage on the property. Most of the properties that we buy have mortgages on them. And a lot of the properties that we buy are pre-foreclosure, meaning there's a mortgage that can be foreclosed on. So most of the ones we buy, we just have to make the numbers work. And if the numbers don't work, then we don't buy the property. Or I've got about 4 properties that I'm under contract with that are short sales. And so they have mortgages on them, and we're in a short sale market. The market has shifted. The market of the moment now are foreclosures, short sales, and auction properties. And so the ones we have under contract now that are short sales, the mortgage balance is more than what the property is worth. So that constitutes a short sale. So we wrote contracts according to the Mayo formula that is going to bring that seller short. And then we're going to expect or hope that the bank, the mortgage company, forgives the negative balance. And so a lot of the properties we buy, most of the properties we buy have mortgages on them.
Have you had any instances where the mortgage company doesn't allow you or doesn't allow the seller to assign it over to another company like that in the contract?
No. We mainly buy the house, so we pay off the mortgage. We're doing a subject to, meaning we're taking over the mortgage. So we're going to take over the mortgage, bring the mortgage current, leave that seller, that motivated seller, leave them on the mortgage. We make the payments. Now, the bank can do what's called, they can call the loan, meaning they're telling the seller, somebody else is taking over your mortgage. We want the total mortgage balance. But why would the mortgage company do that? They're just happy getting their payments. So I've never seen that happen.
Is it money and like going after reverse mortgages?
Not really. Don't necessarily look at reverse mortgages as anything other than just a mortgage. It's just a mortgage that really somebody else owns. And so you're still running the formulas. Everything we do, it's the Mayo formula. You're still running the formulas. The numbers still have to work.
When you write on short sales, do you use a disposable LLC that you can trade?
Good question. And so when we write on, I wouldn't consider it a disposable
And you need
LLC.
one that you can sell the LLC? as
Yeah,
opposed to
and so when we're writing on short sales, foreclosures, or properties that are just on the market in the MLS, we use an LLC as the buyer, and we keep that LLC on the property, on the contract. And then we sell that LLC, sell the rights and interests of that LLC to a cash buyer. So they're going to replace me in that LLC as the principal in that LLC for a fee. And so that's how we handle that. So that LLC stays on the property. Mhm.
Diane, I know you said you did the the virtual sale out in Georgia. Did you have to register in that state?
No, so I don't have to register, but it's a whole nother process. So I had to get another MLS. It's like a virtual MLS, and we'll talk. It's a whole lot to it.
And another question, the title companies, do they send you a 1099 after a wholesale deal, or how?
Good question. Good question. And so when you're wholesaling, let's say you make $20,000, right? Wholesale fee, that's a capital gain. And so it's a capital gain from the cash buyer. And the way it's supposed to work is the cash buyer is supposed to give you a W-9 before you receive that $20,000. And then at the end of the year, they're supposed to give you a 1099 because it's a capital gain, the cash buyer. I will say, unfortunately, they don't do that. And so, but I don't want you to think that it's free money, because if you were to get audited, so yeah, you've got to self-report. But it is wholesaling is a taxable event. It's a capital gain, and whether the cash buyer gives you a W-9 or a 1099 at the end of the year, they may or may not do that. In most cases, they don't. My advice is you should report it. Don't think you're getting away with 20 grand.
So you reported with your LLC.
If you did the wholesale deal in the LLC, yeah, I think it's like on your Schedule C. All right, any other questions?
Yeah. I want to ask about this, even though I kind of like know why they do it. Okay, I told you I work for 4 Brothers Buy Houses, right? And I work for Reality REI. Okay, so they wholesale houses, right, to other investors. But they never tell the homeowner, because once they get it under contract, then they have me, okay, I do the open house for them. And the investors and realtors come, those are the only ones that can come out there. They come and see the property, and they only have 24 hours to put in their offer. And a lot of the houses too, people still live there. They still live there, but they're moving, so they can leave whatever they don't want in the house and all. But they never tell the homeowners,
That they're signing the contract?
right,
Not necessarily.
they don't.
Well, have
they
you
don't
seen their contract?
No.
Have you seen the contract between the
homeowner and 4 Brothers?
yeah, have you seen that contract?
No, I haven't seen the contract, but like I said, I do the open houses, but they never tell these people that they are investors that's coming to the property to see property. And
so
sometimes the homeowner's like, well, who are all these people? Why are all these people here?
Right, so they might not know about the open house, but my guess is,
But they do tell them that people, that that,
That
you know,
they-
somebody will be coming by.
Right, the
like,
partners
on
or whatever.
today. Right.
So here's my guess.
Mhm,
My guess is that in the contract that they sign,
mhm.
it's like our contract. And like I just explained, there's two places in our contract where it gives the buyer the opportunity to assign the contract. And my guess is it's the same thing. Now, they may not be telling them, the seller, that,
They're not. They don't tell.
so they might not tell them, but I'm sure they have it in writing.
Mhm.
So we have it in writing, and so our contract is bulletproof. And so we have twice in our contract that we have the right to assign. Now, when I'm sitting down with the motivated seller, am I going into detail about the assignment? No.
Oh, okay, so they just not bringing that part up to them.
But my guess is that it's in the contract, like our contract,
Yeah,
and they have a right to do that.
yeah.
And that's the only way that it makes it legal.
Well, Kevin is an attorney, so I'm sure he.
My guess is that it's in there.
Right.
But they're not fully saying, you know, we're gonna have an open house, or fully explaining what the assignment is. I mean, to be honest, it's in the contract twice, but I don't necessarily, sometimes I will say, you know, either myself or another investor may buy it, or me or one of my partners will buy it. And at the end of the day, what do they care?
Yeah, I
If
think
they're
that's-
supposed to sell the property and make 50,000 or 100,000, whatever it is, they could care, on their side, they could
Right,
care
I don't
less.
care, just buy my house.
Yeah, yeah, but some people that, like I said, well, so many of the people, it's like, who are all these people? Where are all these people?
Don't say nothing to them though. Don't say nothing, okay?
I'm telling
You might be out of a job. Don't say nothing. Just give one of them, I don't know.
But if I say, oh, no, then they not gonna let the people into their house.
We'll say something.
Right, I tell them that their contractors coming to take a look at the house to see what they're gonna do to remodel it. Yeah.
All right, as we close, real estate agents, you've got to disclose, okay? Even if it's an off-market deal, even if you're using our investor contract, on our investment contract, there's a place in there where you say you could be an agent. There's an agency paragraph in there. I would verbally disclose, but on the contract, you're disclosing on our contract. And so you've got to do that, real estate agents. If you're not a real estate agent, there's still a paragraph in here to say, whether I'm an agent or not, I'm not representing you. You good?
Want to know, what is your most successful strategy at getting leads?
Good question. It depends on the market, but what's been working is in terms of our coaching students, Keith, you might be able to answer, but auctions. So they're getting properties at auctions. All three of us have them too. That property in Baltimore, was that an auction?
That was an auction.
And I know his in Southeast was an auction.
Then I got one off the MLS. That was
That's rare.
really right.
So I would say auction properties. I would say calling. So calling the list. You can get a pre-foreclosure list, out-of-state absentee owner list are my two favorite lists. And so calling postcards to that same list. Katie uses text messaging. Is that how you got that one in Temple Hills?
Yeah.
So text messaging in that list. And so those, I would say, in terms of the most successful, those are the most successful. Write this down. The fortune is in the follow-up. The fortune is in the follow-up. You've got to follow up. You'll never, ever get them on the first call, second call, third call. You've got to, you're more successful the more you follow up. Okay?
Okay. Also, you have a ratio for each cold call, when you're successful.
You know what that is, Keith?
15 to 1.
Yeah, if you're just using a phone, you need to, for every 100 dials or that you have a chance to speak to someone, you're likely to maybe convert that into an appointment.
Okay, I mean, as far as being successful at the cold call.
Yeah, that's what he's saying.
Oh, okay.
So he's saying for every 100 calls that you make, I'd go home and make the calls. Now, you can use Mojo Dialer, mojosales.com, and you can have a dialer actually dial for you. And then there's what's called a triple dialer where they can dial up to 300 calls an
Yeah,
hour.
it's like maybe 250 an hour. And
That they
so-
dial, you upload the list and they'll call for you.
Can I say something? I think you asked about success rate. I think that comes from how you build yourself up. So that's what this gentleman is for. He'll teach you how to, if you're talking about cold calling, that's the perfect person. There's Thursday night meetings to teach you how to do that.
I have a
Anything
session
else?
actually every Thursday night at 6:30, and I can get you guys the invite for that. We got to practice that. While I'm up here, let me just say this in closing. You guys all have these surveys. Fill them out. Even put down here the subject that you would want to maybe have Greg teach. That helps us to better, plan our events. And also page 6, we haven't gotten to page 6. That's my favorite page in the program. The Platinum Coaching Program. So if you have questions on that, let me know. Let's set up an appointment. My link should be there to set up the appointment. Didn't cost you anything. We feel like it's a really good price, but let's, as Greg likes to say, let's go. There's a lot of opportunities out there. We have quite a few other products just to get your foot in the water with our programs. But if you have questions, I'll be here and can happily answer them for you.
Go ahead.
Can I answer that person's question? I want to add something to that. Who asked about
Yeah, go ahead and stand up.
leads? We can bet you, sir. They asked about how you find leads. You can also find leads from your agent or from any agent. Ask agents or tell an agent, hey, I need your help. I need you to help me buy some properties. And then describe to them what you're looking for: ugly houses, homeowners in distress, properties in distress. They'll send you emails on a regular basis of properties they have. That's one way to find leads. They'll also refer you to buyers. So sometimes they deal with people who do fix and flips, and if they're investor friendly, they also deal with investors. You can ask, do you have any buyers that might like this deal? So they'll bring you buyers and they'll bring you leads. So they are a ton of resource in terms of what they can provide you, Nate. But you got to give them a call and talk to them, let them know what you're trying to do. Recommend let them know that you're an investor, or if you're an agent, but let them know you're an investor and what you're looking for. Okay. Yeah, they'll help you plenty.
So that's good information, but I would use that as a last resort.
Yeah.
Okay, real estate agents, they not
Yeah, because
doing
I'm
that.
an agent, and if I find a deal, I'm not sending it to
Unless you're gonna pay me.
And that's not gonna last too long.
I've been doing it for a while. This is me a bunch of emails about properties. Yeah.
Being a wholesaler and a real estate agent in the state of Maryland, you don't have that issue where they say, selling wholesale is an issue.
No, I haven't had that issue.
You
And I
have to-
disclose everything.
Okay.
I'm very honest, very
So
transparent.
Have you been successful with the short sale? And are tax liens another avenue to look for these kind of leads?
So very successful with short sales.
Okay.
Tax liens, in my opinion, are mainly for corporations to get like 18% on their money
Gotcha.
with no intentions on really buying the properties. They just want a return on their money.
Right.
And so on a tax sale, when you put the money up for the tax sale certificate, every state is different. I think Maryland is 18%. While the money is sitting there, and they try to prolong that, they're getting 18% on the money. So for the first 6 months, there's a right of rescission period where the homeowner can redeem that tax lien. They can pay the taxes.
Right.
So nothing's happening for 6 months.
Right.
Now, if you're putting the money up for that tax lien, 18%. And then even after that, let's say that they didn't pay. So now you win the tax lien certificate. It's going to take you probably another 6 months to go through litigation because you've got to foreclose on them. You keep that for a year and you put up X amount of dollars, you're going to get 18%, much better than the stock market anywhere else. Now, have I bought properties there and gone through that? Yes. but they weren't properties. They were properties in Baltimore where I paid literally like $2,000 or $3,000 for them. But as a strategy for you guys overall, I would not recommend tax sales. I want you guys to go out and find a property today. And I want you to close 2 or 3 weeks from now. That's what I want for you. I don't want you to try to get a tax lien sale and try to close a year from now. I want you, don't you need some money today?
Yeah. They do have over the counter that are already, the time is over, that you can buy. I mean, when she said auction, I thought that's what she meant, that's why I was.
No, we need something. Is there anybody else in here that needs some today money?
Yeah, for sure.
Am I preaching to the wrong congregation? We need some today money. Somebody ought to say amen. Won't he do it? Won't he do it? All right, you guys, the time is now. The time is definitely now. The key is finding these deals. If you need mentorship, we've got a program. If you find a property, just call me, whether you're in our program or not. I'm happy to help you guys. My number is on the handout. We are happy to help. We want everyone to try to find a property within 60 days. It's going to take some work to do so, but you can do it. We've all experienced it. My coaching students in here have experienced it. You can do it, but you've got to take action. You've got to know what you're doing, and you've got to take action. We're in the first month of 2023. There's no reason why you can't achieve all your goals that you have for this year. They're all still right in front of you. But don't let this year get away from you. You guys have a certain potential that we've got to live up to. But it takes action, it takes focus, it takes a certain mindset. But then it also takes mentorship and guidance and coaching and things like that. Being around like-minded people like you are today. And if you do all of those things and know exactly what you need to do and do it right, you're gonna make a lot of money. This is gonna be your best year ever. Any closing remarks, Danielle?
I just think that you just have to invest in yourself. And we come to these classes over and over again. So just get busy and follow up. Like I have 2 deals actually in February that I'm getting wholesale. But these 2 deals I've been working on for almost a year. So if you get in here, it's like, oh my God, you make sure the numbers work. Don't just get any random deal because you want a deal because Dana got a deal. You got to go at your own pace. It's not a race. And so you just got to learn the process, and you just got to stick with it, be consistent with it, and it'll work. It will. But you got to know what works for you. Because what works for Dana doesn't work for me. And so we all have different personalities. So you just got to make sure you go out and do it. Like you leave out of here today, go drive for dollars, go do something. Just don't let this class just be a waste of time. And then join the program. And it's not a sales pitch. I got into the program in 2018. Again, it wasn't for me at the time. I had young kids, had a teenager, life got in the way. But then I revisited. I still was doing things in between. But I wish I would have had the mentorship because I probably wouldn't have lost the money that I did. So just take an investment in yourself. That's it.
Dana?
And I would say, don't be like me years ago and try to do it on your own and fall flat on your face. When I say I fell flat on my face, I fell flat on my face. Because it can get really involved and things are going to come up and you need to have somebody, be able to have somebody to go to say, okay, this came up, what do I do? That's important because this train moves fast. And once that train starts to move, it moves so fast, you can easily lose out. And you can lose a lot. So it's really important to join a group, to have mentorship, have teaching, have a group of people you can call. We call each other. We network with each other. We got a problem. We become friends. We become a family, and we lean on each other. So I think that would be my best advice for everybody.
And so ultimately, we're building wealth. We're not building wealth wholesaling real estate, you guys. That's active income. You're not going to become wealthy wholesale. You're going to become wealthy taking that money from wholesaling and then do what with it?
Buy and hold.
We want to buy and hold. That's where you're going to become wealthy. Wholesaling is just the start. Now we take that money and we buy and hold for long-term wealth, generational wealth, leaving a legacy, buying commercial, buying multifamily, residential, whatever it is, because we all want to retire. We all don't want to work for the rest of our lives, right? And so on page 4, if you want to, Tarsha Philibert, she's part of our mortgage team. If you want to sit down with her, just a free one-on-one, just to see where you are, just to see what you need to do this year to buy and hold. My goal for you is to buy and hold at least one property. Give her a call so she can help you with the finances, the different programs for investors. So sit down with her, 30 minutes. It could be either virtual or in person to get an idea of what you need to do to buy and hold. The goal is one a year. One a year is your goal. I said this last year. I made it a goal for everyone. These guys far exceeded that goal. And so you can too. Page 5 is our investor-friendly title company. You need a title company that knows investing. And so our investor-friendly title company will help you. And even if you have a deal, want to use another title company, fine, but let them vet that deal for you. Run the title work for you. See if there's any liens or judgments. They're learned on subject tos, owner financing, lease options, all those kinds of things. On page 6, we have Keith's coaching program. If you have some questions for Keith right here, he's going to be here afterwards. And so ask him, ask these guys or some other of our coaching students, you need that mentorship. We've priced it really low. And so let's get in. You can make monthly payments if you like, but let's get in and do our thing. I got the question early, whether or not you need a real estate license to be an investor. The answer is you don't, but I would highly recommend it. And that's why I got my real estate license many, many years ago, because I was investing right out of college. Real estate agents were moving too slow for me. They wasn't sending me a lot of listings and stuff. Like they wasn't sending me, they wasn't doing that for me. Okay. So I said, let me go get my license. You don't even know I was talking about. Hit him, Cheryl. But anyway, you don't have to have a license. I do highly recommend it. But whether you have a license or not, we're very obviously investor friendly at Bennett Realty Solutions. We are 100%. We give you all your commission, lots of training. If you have any questions, there's Susan right here. She's our recruiter. Or you can just go to joinbrs.com and set up an appointment with Susan to just take a look at what we have to offer. Your success, and this is something I thought of the other day. We had some agent investors with us over the years. We've been in business for a long time. And then some have left. And what I've noticed was they stopped investing. And I think the primary, and I can name their names, but the primary reason behind that is, what do you guys think? You've got to be around like-minded people. You've got to be around what you want to do. I mean, it just is. Because now you get out there and you're with people who are talking about something else. Now you just kind of forget or lose your traction on investing, which you guys is one of the most important things that you can do is invest.
And it gets hard.
And so that's the good thing about being around each other, because it does get hard. I remember one night, it was about 10 o'clock at night, Dana called me and he was just, I mean, I promised him I wouldn't say this, but.
Go ahead, say it, Greg.
Go ahead. He was boo-hooing. Dana was crying like a little girl. I'm joking, but I think one night he did call me with some issues. He wasn't crying though, but I felt like he needed to get it out. Sometimes, Dana, it's okay to cry.
But it does happen because it can get difficult. My mother told me nothing worthwhile is easy. So we have to depend on what do we want out of life. I've determined I want something out of life.
And so page 7, if you're interested in joining our brokerage, just go to our link or talk to Susan. One thing that's near and dear to my heart is I want to make sure that everybody, especially people of color, are covered in terms of some type of life insurance. There's a myth that life insurance is too expensive. It's not. We see a lot of GoFundMe pages when a loved one passes away. Stephanie runs our life insurance company, Big Life Financial Services. Talk to her. Put on your orange form that you'd like someone to talk to. Only 20% of African Americans have insurance. And if you're not covered, you know, what are your loved ones going to do? And so you've got to be responsible for your loved ones. But then also there's lots of policies that you can invest out of your policy. My daughter's getting ready to buy a house this year. I opened up a policy for her, a universal life policy for her when she was 13. She's got enough cash value in that policy where she can pull that money out and tax-free and invest that money. So she's going to be investing out of her insurance policy. She's going to refinance that property and pay herself back. She's her own bank. She's 24. Beverly's 24 years old. She's already bought her first property. She's going to buy another property using her own money out of her Index Universal Life policy. And so if you're interested in learning that, or if you just want a final expense, something that if your loved ones don't have to pay for burial, they don't have to pay for if you want it to be cremated, they don't have to pay for any of those things, just a final expense policy, talk to Stephanie or you can fill out this form on page 8 or the orange form. And then the last but not least, if you have any properties, you guys, I'm happy to see whether or not, and I get tons of calls every single day, but let me help you. And it's not I don't have to make any money out of it, but the biggest thing is I don't want you guys losing money. So we do buy houses. I don't want you guys losing money on deals, but if you see a deal, sometimes you don't even know whether it's a deal or not. It could be a deal and you just don't even know, or you don't know how to maximize that opportunity. Let us help you. Let me help you. You guys have all of my information. Let's not let another day go by where we're not doing something to help us build wealth. Wholesaling is not going to help us build wealth. Your job that you work is active income. You're not building wealth there. Lots of real estate agents in here. You're not building wealth listing and selling houses. That's active income. You only become wealthy investing. And so real estate is the easiest thing to get into, my opinion. Let's let real estate be the pathway for us building generational wealth. Okay? Thank you guys so much for being here. Fill out the orange form. Fill out the orange form. This is Ashley right here. Susan, Keith, me. Just pull them up. Give them lunch in the back, you guys. Yeah.